Chapter 16. Lying to George. But Lucy had developed since the spring. That is to say, she was now better able to stifle the emotions of which the conventions and the world disapprove. Though the danger was greater, she was not shaken by deep sobs. She said to Cecil, "Degree, I am not coming in to tea, tell mother I must write some letters, plus or minus," and went up to her room. Then she prepared for action. Love felt and returned, love which our bodies exact and our hearts have transfigured, love which is the most real thing that we shall ever meet, reappeared now as the world's enemy, and she must stifle it. She sent for Miss Bartlett. The contest lay not between love and duty. Perhaps there never is such a contest. It lay between the real and the pretended, and Lucy's first aim was to defeat herself. As her brain clouded over, as the memory of the views grew dim and the words of the book died away, she returned to her old shibboleth of nerves. Chic Degree conquered her breakdown. Plus or minus tampering with the truth, she forgot that the truth had ever been. Remembering that she was engaged to Cecil, she compelled herself to confused remembrances of George. He was nothing to her, he never had been anything, he had behaved abominably, she had never encouraged him. The armor of falsehood is subtly wrought out of darkness, and hides a man not only from others, but from his own soul. In a few moments Lucy was equipped for battle. Degree, something too awful has happened, plus or minus, she began, as soon as her cousin arrived. Degree, do you know anything about Miss Lavish's novel, plus or minus? Miss Bartlett looked surprised, and said that she had not read the book, nor known that it was published. Eleanor was a reticent woman at heart. Degree, there is a scene in it. The hero and heroine make love. Do you know about that, plus or minus? Degree, dear, plus or minus? Degree, do you know about it, please, plus or minus, she repeated. Degree, they are on a hillside. And Florence is in the distance. Plus or minus? Degree, my good Lucia, I am all at sea. I know nothing about it whatever. Plus or minus? Degree, there are violets. I cannot believe it is a coincidence. Charlotte. Charlotte, how could you have told her? I have thought before speaking, it must be you. Plus or minus? Degree told her what, plus or minus, she asked, with growing agitation. Degree, about that dreadful afternoon in February. Plus or minus? Miss Bartlett was genuinely moved. Degree, oh, Lucy, dearest girl, she hasn't put that in her book, plus or minus? Lucy nodded. Degree, not so that one could recognize it. Yes. Plus or minus? Degree, then never more shall Eleanor Lavish be a friend of mine. Plus or minus? Degree, so you did tell, plus or minus? Degree, I did just happen when I had tea with her at Rome in the course of conversation. Plus or minus? Degree, but Charlotte, what about the promise you gave me when we were packing? Why did you tell Miss Lavish, when you wouldn't even let me tell Mother, plus or minus? Degree, I will never forgive Eleanor. She has betrayed my confidence. Plus or minus? Degree, why did you tell her, though? This is a most serious thing. Plus or minus? Why does anyone tell anything? The question is eternal, and it was not surprising that Miss Bartlett should only sigh faintly in response. She had done wrong, she admitted it, she only hoped that she had not done harm, she had told Eleanor in the strictest confidence. Lucy stamped with irritation. Degree, Cecil happened to read out the passage aloud to me and to Mr. Emerson. It upset Mr. Emerson and he insulted me again. Behind Cecil's back. Ugh. Is it possible that men are such brutes? Behind Cecil's back as we were walking up the garden. Plus or minus? Miss Bartlett burst into self-accusations and regrets. Degree, what is to be done now? Can you tell me, plus or minus? Degree, oh, Lucy, I shall never forgive myself, never to my dying day. Fancy if. Your prospects, plus or minus. Degree, I know, plus or minus, said Lucy, wincing at the word. Degree, I see now why you wanted me to tell Cecil, and what you meant by some other source. You knew that you had told Miss Lavish, and that she was not reliable. Plus or minus. It was Miss Bartlett's turn to wince. Degree, however, plus or minus, said the girl, despising her cousin's shiftiness. Degree, what's done. You have put me in a most awkward position. How am I to get out of it, plus or minus? Miss Bartlett could not think. The days of her energy were over. She was a visitor, not a chaperone, and a discredited visitor at that. She stood with clasped hands while the girl worked herself into the necessary rage. Degree, that man must have such a setting down that he forget. And who's to give it him? I can't tell mother now, owing to you. Nor Cecil, Charlotte, owing to you. I am caught up every way. I think I shall go mad. I have no one to help me. That SYIV sent for you. What's wanted is a man with a whip. Plus or minus. Miss Bartlett agreed, one wanted a man with a whip. Degree, yes, but it's no good agreeing. What's to be done, we women go maundering on. What does a girl do when she comes across a cad, plus or minus? Degree, I always said he was a cad, dear. Give me credit for that, at all events. From the very first moment when he said his father was having a bath. Plus or minus. Degree, oh, bother the credit, and who's been right or wrong? We've both made a muddle of it. George Emerson is still down the garden there, and is he to be left unpunished, or isn't he? I want to know. Plus or minus. Miss Bartlett was absolutely helpless. Her own exposure had unnerved her, and thoughts were colliding painfully in her brain. She moved feebly to the window, and tried to detect the cad's white flannels among the laurels. Degree, you were ready enough at the Bertolini when you rushed me off to Rome. Can't you speak again to him now, plus or minus? Degree, willingly would I move heaven and earth, plus or minus. Degree, I want something more definite, plus or minus, said Lucy contemptuously. Degree, will you speak to him? It is the least you can do, surely, considering it all happened because you broke your word. Plus or minus. Degree, never again shall Eleanor Lavish be a friend of mine. Plus or minus. Really, Charlotte was outdoing herself. Degree, yes or no, please, yes or no. Plus or minus. Degree, it is the kind of thing that only a gentleman can settle. Plus or minus. George Emerson was coming up the garden with a tennis ball in his hand. Degree, very well, plus or minus, said Lucy, with an angry gesture. Degree, no one will help me. I will speak to him myself. Plus or minus, and immediately she realized that this was what her cousin had intended all along. Degree, hello, Emerson, plus or minus, called Freddie from below. Degree, found the lost ball? Good man. Want any tea? Plus or minus, and there was an eruption from the house onto the terrace. Degree, oh, Lucy, but that is brave of you. I admire you. Plus or minus. They had gathered round George, who beckoned, she felt, over the rubbish, the sloppy thoughts, the furtive yearnings that were beginning to cumber her soul. Her anger faded at the sight of him. Ah! The Emersons were fine people in their way. She had to subdue a rush in her blood before saying, Degree, Freddie has taken him into the dining room. The others are going down the garden. Come. Let us get this over quickly. Come. I want you in the room, of course. Plus or minus. Degree Lucy, do you mind doing it, plus or minus? Degree how can you ask such a ridiculous question, plus or minus? Degree poor Lucy, plus or minus she stretched out her hand. Degree I seem to bring nothing but misfortune wherever I go. Plus or minus Lucy nodded. She remembered their last evening at Florence, the packing, the candle, the shadow of Miss Bartlett's toque on the door. She was not to be trapped by pathos a second time. Eluding her cousin's caress, she led the way downstairs. Degree try the jam, plus or minus Freddie was saying. Degree the jam's jolly good. Plus or minus. George, looking big and disheveled, was pacing up and down the dining room. As she entered he stopped, and said. Degree no, nothing to eat. Plus or minus. Degree you go down to the others, plus or minus said Lucy. Degree Charlotte and I will give Mr. Emerson all he wants. Where's mother, plus or minus? Degree she's started on her Sunday writing. She's in the drawing room. Plus or minus. Degree that's all right. You go away. Plus or minus. He went off singing. Lucy sat down at the table. Miss Bartlett, who was thoroughly frightened, took up a book and pretended to read. She would not be drawn into an elaborate speech. She just said, Degree I can't have it, Mr. Emerson. I cannot even talk to you. Go out of this house, and never come into it again as long as I live here, plus or minus flushing. As she spoke and pointing to the door. Degree, I hate a row. Go please. Plus or minus. Degree what, plus or minus? Degree no discussion. Plus or minus. Degree but I can plus or minus. She shook her head. Degree go, please. I do not want to call in Mr. Vice. Plus or minus. Degree you don't mean, plus or minus he said, absolutely ignoring Miss Bartlett. Degree you don't mean that you are going to marry that man, plus or minus. The line was unexpected. She shrugged her shoulders, as if his vulgarity wearied her. Degree you are merely ridiculous, plus or minus she said quietly. Then his words rose gravely over hers. Degree you cannot live with Vice. He.s. only for an acquaintance. He is for society and cultivated talk. He should know no one intimately, least of all a woman. Plus or minus. It was a new light on Cecil's character. Degree have you ever talked to Vice without feeling tired, plus or minus? Degree, I can scarcely discuss, plus or minus. Degree no, but have you ever? He is the sort who are all right so long as they keep to things, books, pictures, but kill when they come to people. That's why I'll speak out through all this muddle even now. It's shocking enough to lose you in any case, but generally a man must deny himself joy, and I would have held back if your Cecil had been a different person. I would never have let myself go. But I saw him first. In the National Gallery, when he winced, because my father mispronounced the names of great painters. Then he brings us here, and we find it is to play some silly trick on a kind neighbor. That is the man all over playing tricks on people, on the most sacred form of life that he can find. Next, I meet you together, and find him protecting and teaching you and your mother to be shocked, when it was _you_2. Settle whether you were shocked or no. Cecil all over again. He daren't let a woman decide. He's the type who has kept Europe back for 1,000 years. Every moment of his life he's forming you, telling you what's charming or amusing or ladylike, telling you what a man thinks womanly. And you of all women, listen to his voice instead of to your own. So it was at the rectory, when I met you both again, so it has been the whole of this afternoon. Therefore, not therefore I kissed you. Because the book made me do that, and I wish to goodness I had more self-control. I am not ashamed. I don't apologize. but it has frightened you, and you may not have noticed that I love you. Or would you have told me to go, and dealt with a tremendous thing so lightly? But therefore I settled to fight him. Plus or minus. Lucy thought of a very good remark. Degree, you say Mr. Vyse wants me to listen to him, Mr. Emerson. Pardon me for suggesting that you have caught the habit. Plus or minus. And he took the shoddy reproof and touched it into immortality. He said. Degree, yes, I have, plus or minus, and sank down as if suddenly weary. Degree, I am the same kind of brute at bottom. This desire to govern a woman, it lies very deep. And men and women must fight it together before they shall enter the garden. But I do love you surely in a better way than he does. Plus or minus, he thought. Degree, yes, really in a better way. I want you to have your own thoughts even when I hold you in my arms. Plus or minus, he stretched them towards her. Degree, Lucy, be quick, there's no time for us to talk now, come to me as you came in the spring, and afterwards I will be gentle and explain. I have cared for you since that man died. I cannot live without you, no. Good, I thought, she is marrying someone else, but I meet you again. When all the world is glorious water and sun. As you came through the wood I saw that nothing else mattered. I called. I wanted to live and have my chance of joy. Plus or minus. Degree and Mr. Vyse, plus or minus, said Lucy, who kept commendably calm. Degree, does he not matter? That I love Cecil and shall be his wife shortly? A detail of no importance, I suppose, plus or minus. But he stretched his arms over the table towards her. Degree, may I ask what you intend to gain by this exhibition, plus or minus? He said, Degree, it is our last chance. I shall do all that I can. Plus or minus, and as if he had done all else, he turned to Miss Bartlett, who sat like some portent against the skies of the evening. Degree, you won't stop us this second time if you understood, plus or minus, he said. Degree, I have been into the dark. And I am going back into it, unless you will try to understand. Plus or minus. Her long, narrow head drove backwards and forwards, as though demolishing some invisible obstacle. She did not answer. Degree, it is being young, plus or minus, he said quietly, picking up his racket from the floor and preparing to go. Degree, it is being certain that Lucy cares for me. Really. It is that love and youth matter intellectually. Plus or minus. In silence, the two women watched him. His last remark, they knew, was nonsense, but was he going after it or not? Would not he, the cad, the charlatan, attempt a more dramatic finish? No. He was apparently content. He left them, carefully closing the front door, and when they looked through the hall window, they saw him go up the drive and begin to climb the slopes of withered fern behind the house. Their tongues were loosed, and they burst into stealthy rejoicings. Degree, oh, Lucia, come back here, oh, what an awful man, plus or minus. Lucy had no reaction, at least, not yet. Degree, well, he amuses me, plus or minus, she said. Degree, either I am mad, or else he is, and I am inclined to think it's the latter. One more fuss through with you, Charlotte. Many thanks. I think, though, that this is the last. My admirer will hardly trouble me again. Plus or minus. And Miss Bartlett, too, essayed the roguish. Degree, well, at ISNT, everyone who could boast such a conquest, dearest, is it? Oh, one oughtn't to laugh, really. It might have been very serious. But you were so sensible and brave, so unlike the girls of my day. Plus or minus. Degree, let us go down to them. Plus or minus. But, once in the open air, she paused. Some emotion, pity, terror, love, But the emotion was strong, seized her, and she was aware of autumn. Summer was ending, and the evening brought her odors of decay, the more pathetic because they were reminiscent of spring. That something or other mattered intellectually? A leaf, violently agitated, danced past her, while other leaves lay motionless. That the earth was hastening to re-enter darkness, and the shadows of those trees over Windy Corner? Degree hello, Lucy. There's still light enough for another set, if you two ll. Hurry. Plus or minus. Degree Mr. Emerson has had to go. Plus or minus. Degree what a nuisance. That spoils the four. I say, Cecil, do play, do. There's a good chap. It's Floyd's last day. Do play tennis with us. Just this once. Plus or minus. Cecil's voice came, Degree my dear Freddie, I am no athlete. As you well remarked this very morning, there are some chaps who are no good for anything but books. I plead guilty to being such a chap, and will not inflict myself on you. Plus or minus. The scales fell from Lucy's eyes. How had she stood Cecil for a moment? He was absolutely intolerable, and the same evening she broke off her engagement.